John, let's start with your report. So everybody warned the FBI and the DOJ that it wasn't verified, that Steele hated Trump, and that Hillary paid for it, but they still used it. That would mean everything that Rod Rosenstein just said about evidence, witnesses, affidavits, and that it had to, in fact, be verified is not true, and it's a warrant, career law enforcement, and there'd be consequences if they got it wrong. Well, it seems like they were warned in advance about everything, but they did it anyway, which tells me that it was a premeditated fraud against the FISA court.
Well, let me lay out a couple things that I think will really cement this for people who don't follow this on a day-to-day basis. In January of 17, the month that President Trump is taking office, and 2.5 years before Mueller finally came out and finally said there's no collusion, the FBI interviewed the primary Russian source for Christopher Steele. And after that interview, according to my sources, they determined that that source either had intentionally misled Christopher Steele or was such an exaggerator, a bloviator, that he distorted the information that Steele then provided to the FBI. That is extraordinary. To come to the conclusion that you move from beyond Steele to his source and you think his source is not reliable, what do you do with that information? Well, here's what they did with that information. They continued to represent to the court that Christopher Steele's dossier was credible as they secured 2 more extensions of the FISA warrant in April and in June of 2017. And the American public was led to believe for 2 more years that there might still be something here to this whole Steele allegation of collusion. It is criminal. It is unjustifiable to the American public or to the FISA court that the FBI did that. And let me go to one other thing. There's a spreadsheet, right? And it goes through every claim. One of the claims that they concluded
Why didn't we hear about this spreadsheet before? And isn't this part of the information of the Gang of 8? In other words, where the FBI admitted wrongdoing?
Yes, but because the FBI has kept it classified, no one can talk about the over-under analysis of Steele. So you'll hear things like people say, well, Steele now might have been a victim of Russian misinformation. You hear these sort of things. Well, that's sort of the coded way that the Intelligence Committee has been trying to tell people, listen, when we looked at this, this was garbage. I was able to get confirmation of the existence of the spreadsheet, but so many of these members have had their hands tied because the FBI hides behind classification. Christopher Steele's document is public. There's nothing classified about it. He leaked it. Glenn Simpson leaked it. There's no reason why the American public can't see the over-under analysis. We don't need to know the sources and methods, but there's no reason that we can't find out. The FBI thought 70, 80, 90% of it was unverifiable, wrong, or garbage. The only reason that it's been kept classified is to keep the embarrassment from the FBI having to admit that they got taken to the cleaners by this guy. It is shameful, and it's shameful that Chris Wray's FBI isn't more forthcoming about what went on here. They're trying to continue to hide the truth about the FBI's conduct. But let me take one thing that's so important in the spreadsheet. In the spreadsheet, the claim in Steele's dossier that Carter Page had met with Igor Session and Igor Divechkin, 2 close associates of Putin, in July 2016, is ultimately concluded to be unverifiable and most likely wrong. Why is that insignificant? That exact passage, that claim, is in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th FISA applications, and the FBI represented to the court that claim was verified for them, meaning they had confirmed he had met with them, and therefore we should be able to listen in on Carter Page's conversations. That's how wrong, that's how bad the FBI's work on this FISA is.
Was it bad or was it political? Was it all part of an attempted coup, an insurance policy? Was it all, when you look at the lengths they went to between the Attorney General at the time, Loretta Lynch, and Comey and Strzok and Page, and even Strzok and Page say, you know, it's not an investigation into Hillary, it's a matter. That's what she said to James Comey. But then Strzok and Page said, there's no way she's ever going to get indicted. The fix is in by Loretta Lynch and her, Department of Justice. Let me go and get Greg Jarrett's legal take on this, because basically all this is confirming is they never verified it. What we now know is it's an unverifiable document. I doubt Carter Page in the 16 hours of testimony with the Inspector General's guy, I believe Mr. Durham, I doubt he contradicted his sworn interrogatory testimony, because otherwise he'd be guilty of perjury. So that would mean that he would say that he didn't have any idea if any of this is true.
Yes, you can bet that when he was interviewed recently, Steele, by the IG, that he stuck to that testimony that you just recited, and he also probably took it a step further and said, I warned the FBI and the Department of Justice that they needed to verify this, that by itself you can't rely on it. And so, Steele debunked his own dossier. The FBI, thanks to John's reporting, we know, debunked it as well with a spreadsheet. Mueller debunked it in his report. The FBI knew it was phony, and they were warned about it repeatedly, plus on their own they determined that there's no truth to it because...
But according to this timeline, in early 2017, if they have this spreadsheet that they're talking about, that would mean at least one, if not two, the final renewal warrant applications were, again, using the bulk of information in the dossier, including what John just explained about Carter Page having met with these individuals in Moscow in July of 2016, knowing that it didn't happen. That would mean that they kept lying, and every time they lied, it was even more severe.
But they lied in the first warrant. They, as you've pointed out many times, the top of the warrant application says verified information. It wasn't verified, and they knew it. And if at some point in time, by virtue of their spreadsheet, they found evidence that was completely contradictory, they have an obligation under the law to immediately notify the FISA judges of that. They didn't do any of that. Christopher Wray, as I've said before, is just like James Comey. He doesn't care about the truth. He's there to protect the institution and his colleagues. And so he will fight tooth and nail to obstruct information to deceive America.
Okay, now that the facts are overwhelming and incontrovertible, and they knew it was this was phony information and unverifiable information, but they went forward to spy not only on Carter Page and deny him his constitutional rights, his civil liberties, but also it was their backdoor to spy on the Trump campaign, the Trump transition team, and then the Trump presidency. And then the same people were responsible for setting it up that a special counsel be put in place for the purpose of removing a duly elected president of the United States. What are the legal issues here?
Well, the first thing is that William Barr he has the authority and power by virtue of the president now to declassify this material. So he should haul Christopher Wray and some of the intelligence chief into his office at the Department of Justice and say, enough of your obstruction, enough of your hiding documents and evidence. I'm going to declassify these documents to demonstrate to the American people that we're serious about getting to the truth. And as John eloquently pointed out, there's no reason why this spreadsheet and other documents cannot be revealed. You don't need to reveal sources and methods, but you can reveal the results and the evidence that you obtained. And that'll blow the lid off this whole Russia hoax and the ensuing witch hunt. So Bill Barr needs to do that.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back more with John Solomon, his breaking news, Greg Jarrett, 800. As we continue, John Solomon, Executive Vice President, investigative reporter for The Hill, and Greg Jarrett, Fox News, legal analyst. We're breaking down John now telling us that something has existed for a long time. That is the FBI's own spreadsheet that debunked completely the Steele dossier. Why is this only being known? Why are we only knowing about this now, John Solomon?
Listen, the FBI is one of the greatest agencies at keeping secrets when it needs to, and that serves us well when the purpose of keeping a secret is to protect national security. Here, the effort to keep this secret is all designed to protect the reputation of the FBI from misconduct that clearly occurred in the Russia corruption probe. And so I think the reason is the FBI has been good. Remember how many times Devin Nunes had to threaten a subpoena and get to a floor vote before Chris Wray at the last minute would walk over with Rod Rosenstein, and they would suddenly at the last minute give over documents. Think about this. The IG did not have that State Department document in his 2-year investigation until we got it in a FOIA lawsuit with Dave Bossie and Citizens United. That's the level to which the FBI has gone to keep this dirty secret of just how bad their work was in this case. FBI does lots of great work every day in the Russia case.
Well, we're talking about 1%. We're very clear about that. All right, last word, Greg Jarrett.
Well, I think it's going to be very important to see what Bob Mueller says when he is asked some very serious questions a week from today, because the Republicans are armed for bear, and they've got about 20 questions, as you well know, that need to be answered.
All right, thank you.